Good evening, and welcome back to Election Night in America, 2024. Tonight, Americans will decide whether we want another 4 years of President Biden or a return to President Trump's leadership. Before we get into our first poll closings, we do have some exit polls to take a look at. Right now, only 38% of Americans say we're headed in the right direction, compared to a staggering 60% that suggests we are on the wrong track. Similarly, President Biden does not have very favorable approval ratings. Only 43% of Americans say they approve of his job performance, compared to 55% who disapprove. That being said, Donald Trump's is not, any better. Only 40% say that they approve of him, compared to a staggering 58% who disapprove. Thus, as you can see, both candidates seem to be suffering some severe unpopularity problems. The Democrats themselves are quite unpopular right now, with only 37% of Americans saying that they view them favorably, but the Republicans seem to be even worse, with only 35% of Americans say that they view them favorably. Right now, voters seem to be suggesting that the economy is the most important issue, closely trailed by access to abortion. We also have more information on the Trump charges, as he's been indicted multiple times, specifically, most recently, for possession and handling of illegal classified documents. Another 14% of Americans listed other issues as their first choice, specifically healthcare. With those exit polls out of the way, let's start by taking a look at our poll closings at 7 o'clock. We have results from the state of Vermont. We can project Joe Biden will win this state, defeating President Trump. We can also project in Indiana that President Trump will defeat Joe Biden. And in Kentucky, he is also going to win this state. It's currently too early to call in South Carolina. Joe Biden has a lead there, but again, only 7% of the votes reported, and we expect more Republican areas to come in shortly. In Virginia, kind of the opposite, President Trump leads President Biden by over 31%, but again, more Democratic areas are expected to come in and potentially tip the state back into the president's column. In Georgia, we can project that Donald Trump has a lead, but it's too early to make a call. But again, you'd always rather have a lead, so a decent start out here for former President Trump. And our electoral map right now showing Joe Biden trailing former President Trump. He has 3 electoral votes from Vermont. President Trump has 19 from Kentucky and Indiana. Now it's 7:30 o'clock on the East Coast. We have some more results coming in. The first is in South Carolina. We can project South Carolina will send its 9 electoral votes former President Trump's way. He's right now up by 7.5 points. That lead will only grow as we get more Republican areas to come in. In West Virginia, we can project, no surprise here, Donald Trump will carry this state, one of the most Republican states in the country. Not a shock at all. It's currently too early to call in North Carolina. We have only 2% of the vote in, but right now Biden has a lead of around 35,000. And in Ohio, similarly, too early to call, but Joe Biden does have a decent lead built up right now, but we will have to see if he can hold on to that. And so again, the electoral map at this hour shows Donald Trump leading Joe Biden. He's accumulated 32 electoral votes. Joe Biden only at 3, but again, a long way to go. The night is still very young. It's now 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and we have some more projections to make. In Virginia, we did not call this earlier. The polls closed here about an hour ago. Joe Biden has taken a lead here over Donald Trump. He's leading by a little over 3.5 points. This will likely continue to swing his direction, and he will win Virginia. We can also project he'll win the state of Massachusetts. No surprise here. Another blue state, New England, Maine, backing Biden. We can also project that its first district will vote for Joe Biden. We don't have a call out of the second district yet, but the first district, staunchly Democratic, backing Joe Biden here. In Rhode Island, we can also project that Joe Biden will win it, although by a slightly reduced margin. We can also project that in Connecticut, Joe Biden has taken the lead there, and he will win Connecticut. Another one here, New Jersey, big one. 14 electoral votes, rather, for the President of the United States. And, of course, we can project his home state of Delaware. 15-point victory there for Joe Biden. In Maryland, right next to Delaware, that's another big victory for the president, 10 electoral votes in his column. And, of course, where he currently lives right now, the District of Columbia. We'll have to see if he'll still be residing there after this election, but the city itself backing him, pretty big amount. In Illinois, the kind of gem of the Midwest for Democrats, no surprise here, Joe Biden has been projected the winner of the state of Illinois. Now, on the other hand, we have a few calls for President Trump. 61% of voters in Tennessee are backing him. That is enough to give him the victory at this hour. We can also project he will win Alabama and he will win Mississippi. 2 southern states very important for his coalition. He could not have lost them, and no surprise here, he's ahead pretty substantially in both states. In Missouri, a little close early on, but it looks like President Trump will get another victory out of the state of Missouri, so he's 3 for 3 there all time. You can also project he'll win decisively in Oklahoma, nearly 66% of the vote. And, of course, New Hampshire, too early to call right now, but Donald Trump has a lead there. A bit of a surprise. We don't really know where the votes are coming in from just yet, but we would expect this state to narrow up. But again, a bit of a surprising showing there. President Trump has a lead. In Maine's 2nd district, it's also too close to call. 16,000 votes separating Biden and the former president. Right now, Trump up by just over 4.5 points. We can also project that Pennsylvania is too early to call. Biden has a 72% of the vote on his side right now, but again, very early. Only the city of Pittsburgh has come in so far, so we'll have to see where the rest of the state takes us. In Florida, this was a state that was huge for Donald Trump in 2020. He absolutely must have it. Right now, he's trailing, but again, we will see where more votes come in from. We're going to have to wait and see, potentially look at how Miami turns out, and that should be coming in a few minutes here, but right now, too early to call. So that leaves us. Joe Biden has a lead, 90 electoral votes for him. For former President Trump, 75 electoral votes. But again, the night is still very young. Biden might have a lead right now, but we're not sure how it's going to turn out at the end of the night. And we do want to say that most of these swing states, we don't even have an idea of who they're tilting towards at this hour. It's now 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and we have some more projections to make. In New Hampshire, we can project Donald Trump has lost the state to Joe Biden. He was leading earlier, but the President of the United States will maintain New Hampshire for his coalition, but on the other hand, we can project Ohio will go to Donald Trump. Obviously, this is not a state that Joe Biden was expected to win. He had, a decent showing early on, but as more votes came in, we were seeing Donald Trump take a pretty substantial lead, and we expect this lead to only continue to grow over the night. We can also project that in Maine's 2nd district, 1 electoral vote will be awarded to the former president. No surprise here. This was a state or a district that he won by 7 points in 2020, and he's going to win it by a similar amount once again. In Arkansas, another no surprise state, we can project President Trump will take it. Obviously, one of the reddest states in the union, and it's going to go for Donald Trump. So that gives him a narrow lead, 99 electoral votes for him, 94 for Joe Biden. And the only really swing state we've called so far is New Hampshire, which went for Biden. But again, we're going to have to wait and see where states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia go, because those states are going to determine who wins the presidency. We now have some more poll closings. It's 9 o'clock on the East Coast, and we have some major projections to make here. First of all, New York, big state in the Northeast, 20 electoral votes at stake. We can project Joe Biden will be winning those. We can also project that he'll win New Mexico, just over 10% lead right now for the incumbent president. 6% of the vote in, that's going to be good enough to give him the call. Colorado, this is a super left-trending state. It used to be a swing state, has been trending blue over the past decade. No surprise here, backing Biden very, very solidly. On the flip side, we can project Louisiana will back Donald Trump here. Right now, he's up by almost or over 19 points. That will hold. We can also project that Nebraska, the at-large vote, going to back President Trump. Pretty substantial amount there, but more specifically in District 1, we can project Donald Trump will win that. A little closer than expected so far, but no surprise. This is a red seat, and it might be trending blue in the future, but for now, it's going to stay in Republican hands. We can also project that the deep red 3rd district, as you can see here, Biden just getting crushed by Donald Trump. No surprise there out of the 3rd district. South Dakota, both the Dakotas actually right here are going to vote for President Trump. South Dakota there, and then North Dakota right here. We can also project that Wyoming, the smallest state in the union by population, no surprise out of Wyoming, solidly standing with President Trump. It's currently too early to call a winner in Michigan. Right now, Joe Biden has a very big lead over the former president, but we're going to have to wait and see for more areas to come in before we can make a projection here. Similarly, in Wisconsin, we can report that Joe Biden has a lead, but again, too early to call, although that lead is looking pretty substantial right now. In Minnesota, we can report Joe Biden once again there leading. We expect him to win this, but we're waiting a little bit to make a call, although again, right now he is clearly favored over President Trump. And in Kansas, Biden is actually taking the lead here. This is a red state, but we're going to have to wait and see for more areas to come in before we can officially make a projection. In Texas, this is a big one. Trump absolutely cannot lose this. Right now, the president leads there by a little over 100,000 votes, but again, it's still too early to call. Just under 3% of the vote has been reported, so we're waiting on a lot more areas to come in before we can make a projection there. In Arizona, we can report that Joe Biden is trailing President Trump early on. We only have 1% of the vote in. It's from rural Green Lee County, but right now we can report that Donald Trump has a lead of just under 15,000. And of course, in that 2nd district in Nebraska, going to be huge. if Trump can flip it, but right now he's trailing by a substantial amount early on, 9% of the vote in, 7,000 votes separating him and the incumbent president. So right now, Joe Biden has a lead of about 17 electoral votes here, 137 for him, 120 for former President Trump. And we're waiting on a lot of calls here. We have a lot of yellow states in the map. These are states we aren't ready to make projections in just yet, but we're going to wait and see. We're going to wait for more votes to come in from a lot of these cities, and once we get those, we'll give you updates. But it's now 10 o'clock on the East Coast. We have a big projection to make, and it's in Michigan. We can project Joe Biden will win the state of Michigan. Right now, he's up by over 8%, and he might not win by that much, but it does appear as though he is taking a pretty solid lead there. And, he was expected to win it walking into Election Day. Trump maintained that he had a chance there, but ultimately it's going to stick with President Biden. In Nebraska's 2nd district, we can project the president will hold on. Half the vote has been reported. He's up by 19. No surprise there. This would have been a nice one for Trump to have, but at the end of the day, it's going to stick with President Biden. We can also project Minnesota. This is another one that we were kind of waiting to make a call on, but we're expecting it to go blue. We can officially report Minnesota will vote for President Biden. However, in Florida, this is a big one for Trump. He absolutely had to have Florida, and he's going to get it. Right now, he's up 3.5% roughly. 86% of the vote in that lead will only expand as the remaining 14% kind of flows in here. But right now, Donald Trump has officially won Florida. That's big news for him. I'm sure they're celebrating that. They could not have won the presidency without Florida, and they're going to get another big victory out of the state. In Kansas, similarly, they needed Kansas as well to a bit of a smaller extent, but they're going to get it here. Right now, President Trump up by almost 12%, and that lead should only expand as the remaining quarter of the vote comes in. In Utah, no surprise here. This is a state that we got a few wacky polls out of that showed Biden within, striking distance, but that never really materialized. He never really campaigned there, and we did, as you can see tonight, we're going to get a pretty solid victory from President Trump. In Montana, we can also project that President Trump will win, although, again, this is a very competitive Senate race there. Steve Bullock, or John Tester right now fighting off a challenge from Ryan Zink, and we're going to have to wait and see how that one turns out, because that is very consequential. It's currently too early to call in Nevada. We can report that President Trump has a lead of around 5,000 votes. In Iowa, Joe Biden up by around 20 points, although again, too early to call, only 6% of the vote in out of this state. We're going to have to wait and see. So that puts us a very narrow electoral college margin at this moment. Trump ahead by only 3, but a lot of yellow states that have still yet to be called, although right now the betting odds do favor President Biden. He's won Michigan, he's won New Hampshire, he's won Minnesota, which are the kind of earlier swing states that were expected to be off the board. We're waiting on Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia to report from the East Coast. They've been counting votes all night, and right now we're waiting on those states to kind of get back to us, while these more western states that have only recently begun counting are starting to give us a better picture of what's going on there. Anyways, it's now 11 o'clock on the East Coast, and we have some major projections to make. We can project Iowa. We did not call it earlier. Will go for President Trump. We can also report that Pennsylvania, on the other hand, will vote for Joe Biden. Right now, 78% of the vote, and he just took the lead there. And the remaining votes are mostly votes from the Philadelphia area, which is expected to skew towards him. Thus, despite the close margin, we can project he will win Pennsylvania, and this is a big one. He needed Pennsylvania. This was the bellwether the last election. If he got it tonight, it would be huge for him, and he's going to get it right now. 10 minutes past 11 o'clock. We can also project that he'll win Georgia. This is another big one. Almost 9 out of every 10 votes have been counted here from this state, and he's up by about half a point. That's going to be huge for him. Georgia's a state that he was expected to win, although narrowly, and right now, his expectations are coming true. In California, no surprise here. This is the biggest state in the union, very blue, well known for it as well. 1% of the vote, and we can project Joe Biden will win. In Oregon, neighboring California just up north, we can project Joe Biden will defeat Donald Trump. And of course in Washington, another big one for Biden. He's up pretty substantially right now. And of course in Hawaii, Joe Biden right now leading former President Trump. He's up by over 26% there. In Idaho, this is kind of the one silver lining for President Trump at this hour. He will carry that state decisively, but right now, as you can see, we just called the presidency for Joe Biden with Pennsylvania, with Georgia, as well as those blue western states. We can project that Joe Biden has been reelected as president, and we can now say that he will be serving another 4 years as president of the United States. This is a big one for him. He was expected to win walking into tonight, but I'm sure it feels just so sweet for him officially getting that victory over Trump for the second time. It's now 1 a.m. on the East Coast. We have some more projections to make. Biden has already won, but we're not done here. Texas, right now, this was very close to begin with, but it looks like Donald Trump's going to eke out a victory there. We can also report that in Arizona, however, Joe Biden will hold on to the state. He was leading, for the majority of the night after the Maricopa dump came in. and he's going to maintain that lead based on our reports out of the state. We can also report that Alaska is very close right now, only 25,000 votes separating these presidents, but again, doesn't really matter too much. Biden has already won the election. That's 287 electoral votes for the president, 216 for the former president, and 4 states outstanding. We're waiting on North Carolina and Wisconsin specifically. These are states that closed a while ago. We're waiting to see how they go. And speaking of Wisconsin, we can report that Joe Biden has won the state. He is up by over a point with 92% of the vote, and remaining votes coming mostly from Milwaukee. We would expect Joe Biden to maintain this state. He won it very narrowly in 2020. Looks like he's going to win it very narrowly once again. In Nevada, another state he won very narrowly in 2020. He's up by about a point with 7% of the vote left outstanding. There might be some areas that are left for Donald Trump, but it looks like it's going to be over for him in Nevada. Another victory for President Biden here. But silver lining for Trump, at this hour we can report that he has won Alaska. No surprise, he's expected to win it by a decent amount, but just took us a little while to call it due to the slow nature in which they count their ballots. So that gives us 219 electoral votes for former President Trump, 303 for Joe Biden. We're just waiting on North Carolina, which right now actually looks to be very close. Only a couple thousand votes separating the two candidates. We'll show you right now, although we just got an update that Donald Trump will not be conceding the race to Joe Biden. We're going to have to see how that pans out. But North Carolina, we just want to show you right now Donald Trump's lead of about 0.4%. But there is a couple of thousand votes left outstanding, mostly from the Democratic area of Charlotte. This is a bigger city, a lot of Biden ballots left outstanding. And if he wins over 85% of them, he will win North Carolina. Not likely, but it's still within the realm of possibility. Thus why we are waiting to call the state. Though again, you'd rather be Trump within North Carolina. And we have just gotten a report that Biden has finished his victory speech. He has obviously not received a call from President Trump because President Trump said he will not concede. But nevertheless, Joe Biden has won the election, and regardless what happens in North Carolina, we're waiting on him to just finish up that victory speech. And we can now project that Donald Trump has won North Carolina with over 99% of the vote, and we have a couple provisionals that are left outstanding, but the remaining votes came in from Charlotte. Biden did well, but not well enough. He's going to lose the state by just over 3,000 votes. Very tough race for him in North Carolina, but overall, he held on to the presidency. Interestingly enough, we saw that Joe Biden did not flip any states as the incumbent president. You know, he had a chance in North Carolina, but he just narrowly lost it. He also failed to win Florida or Ohio, but nevertheless, he got the job done. He won Arizona, he won Nevada, won Georgia, won Wisconsin, won Michigan, and won Pennsylvania, the biggest states of the night. And at this hour, he has officially been projected to win re-election. He will serve another 4 years in the Oval Office. So thank you so much for watching. Again, I hope you enjoyed. I haven't done one of these in a while, but as summer is upon us, I'm going to have more time on my hands to do stuff like this. So please leave a like. Obviously, these videos do take a while for me to make, so please do show your appreciation. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you all in the next video.